This week we're going to be focusing on the Content tab in Brightspace. If you do not have the Content tab available in your navbar, go ahead and go to your navbar settings, go to Edit this navbar, and add that Content tab to your navbar so that you can get to it quickly. Just a quick reminder, you should be able to go to your Edit settings here, click on Add Links, and then find Content. If that's not on your page, it would be helpful if you had that there. So now let's talk about what's available within the Content tab. You'll notice that if you have nothing yet, you probably see a cloud over here because you need to add a unit. And there's several things that we can do with a unit. You'll notice that on this unit, Welcome to Class, I actually have some text at the beginning of that. So if a student were to get in, the first thing they'd see is my welcome to the course, and they could read that welcome there. What's below that then, the next level of organization, is a lesson. And this one is called Getting to Know Us. And again, I have some content there on the beginning of my lesson. We can also create a folder within a lesson. So unit, lesson, folder. And each of those can house assignments, activities, links to outside resources. But those three act like a kind of hierarchy of organization: unit, lesson, and folder. So here's an example of a unit. We're just about to start the individual and society. If I open up that unit, you'll notice that I had a couple activities that I wanted my students to participate in before we actually got into the subunits or the lessons within this overall unit. This happens to be a Brightspace assignment. I can tell from this icon over here on the left. And this is a link to an outside resource, and I can tell that because I've got the hyperlink icon here. Then I have my lessons here. This one is on individualism and conformity. And when I open that up, I can see the resources that I have there: assignments, a resource, and a Google assignment. How do I know it's a Google assignment? It's got this third-party puzzle piece, and I know that the one that we use for that is Google Assignments. So the first thing that a teacher has to decide when getting started using the Content tab is, how do I want to organize my units? You'll notice that mine are by large unit and then subunit. So this whole first semester, the first 12 weeks were about power, protest, and change, and you'll notice that that is present on these. And then the secondary theme is available as part of those folder or those unit descriptions as well. And I did that because otherwise this was going to become very long with all the resources that I use. And so I decided to break it up into those kind of subunits as I created this. So let's talk about how to do what we want to do on the Content tab. I'll just use this first unit for my demonstration. There's two basic things you can do in the Content tab to add resources or assignments, and that's to create something new or to add something that already exists. When we create something new, it's something like a new assignment that hasn't been written yet, or a link to something where we haven't created that within Brightspace yet, and we want to make that a new thing. When we add existing, it's where we've already created a resource within Google Drive, or we have a document where we want our students to fill out the information, and so we're going to get that through a Google assignment. But it's things that we've already created and that we want to distribute to our students. So first, let's look at what happens when we create something new. I've selected my unit, and if I want it to go into a particular lesson, I click on that lesson and it will go into that lesson. So let's try it here. I will create new. I'm going to create this as a new assignment. So I've added the details of my assignment, and when I save this assignment, it goes into the folder that I selected, and there it is. Now, if it's not in the right spot, I can hover over that assignment and see this 8-dot handle that appears, I can grab that and move it around. Okay, I can even move it into another folder. If I point to the folder, it'll drop it into that folder. Now that can be a little tricky. It likes to move around. It likes to be difficult sometimes, but you can move it around in that fashion. The other thing you can do is to add something that already exists. And when you click on that menu, you see some of the same options you see under Create New. But when you select Add Existing Assignment, you would be given an option to select from a number of different assignments that already exist. So this is not the place where you create a new assignment. This is where you've used an assignment in the past and want to reuse it. Same thing for quiz or discussion. However, if you want to add a file from your Google Drive that already exists, you'd click on Google Drive. You can search for the item that you want to add, and I'll select this presentation on the syllabus highlights, and then I'll have to zoom out a little bit here. I'll select, the button that says Select, and that adds that Google presentation into my folder. The other thing you can do when you're adding an existing resource is to scroll down to the More menu and select Google Assignments. It'll always ask you to confirm who you are. And then you can create a Google assignment where you provide the points, the due date, a title. You can create or reuse a rubric that you've used before. And then when you attach a document, what it's going to do is give a copy to each student, and that each student will be able to write on that document themselves and turn it back in. So instead of downloading a document, writing on it, or filling it in, and then uploading it as a PDF or a Word file, you can do this through Google Assignments. Of course, it's not just assignments that we add to these folders, and it's not just resources. We can also add links to external activities or external resources. In this example, I had my students fill out a Mentimeter survey as we began our class. Then I had them complete an assignment called What I Think I Know About the Constitution. Participated in a discussion board, aliens brushing their teeth. I know it's a strange topic, but we were talking about what you would have to tell people in order to instruct them. Watched a video from YouTube on the peanut butter and jelly challenge, how to tell people how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and how specific you have to be, which led up to our little mini lesson on enumeration and writing. And finally led to a video at the end of the lesson about the story of the Bill of Rights as told by a group of young people. So you can add any number of things to the Content tab in your lessons to lead students from early learning to full understanding. If you look at that Create New menu again, you can add another folder within your lesson. When you say add an HTML document, that's going to be a page that you can edit, there where you can embed images, where you can compose a page of instruction, and it'll exist just as a web page would. A web link is going to be just that, just a link to an external resource. We've talked about assignments before, but there are a number of different ways that you can use assignments within Brightspace. The discussion is a discussion board, and if you've ever participated in one, you know what those are like. The quiz module is very good, and a lot of people really like the functionality that's available within the quiz creating module in Brightspace. We'll talk about the checklist another time, but these are all things that you can create within your Content tab. Just to give you a sense of what students would see, let me demonstrate that for you. So the first thing they'll see is where they left off. If they had completed an assignment or had not submitted an assignment yet, it would prompt them to continue from where they last were. Otherwise, they can select the unit that they were in, and they can select Launch Unit. Now this will take them to the very beginning of the unit, and then they can use these arrows to navigate through the documents and the activities that are part of this unit, or they can use this pancake menu on the left, and that will lead them through the same thing, but in a slightly different order. If they knew exactly where they wanted to go to and they wanted to select that, they could see which assignments they've completed and which they still need to complete. Over the course of the past year and almost a half, I've really tried to organize my content in such a way that it's easy for me as a teacher to see where I'm headed with my classwork, and easy for the students to know what is it that we were busy doing last time in case I wasn't here. I am still working on my organization. I'm still working on what goes where, but I think you can tell that this is something that is always going to be a work in progress. And even though it may change from year to year, that basic structure is something that once I have it developed, I get to reuse that every year, which is one of the great benefits, that once I have this built out, yes, I'm going to adjust my instruction, and yes, I'm going to change how I do things, and yes, I might even do it in a different order. But my basic structure is there, and I can just reuse this class again next year and then edit instead of recreate. I can refine instead of redo. And that's one of those great benefits we have from this. So I hope that gives you a good look into content, and I wish you well and good luck this week.